For several years, everyone's first day as a cast member at the Walt Disney World Resort was my responsibility. What it looked like, sounded like, felt like, what we were aiming people for. And people would come to the Disney University. And people would make fun of it and say, yeah, the Disney University, that's kind of a brainwashing institute. And the reason that they would say that is because it's a little bit of a brainwashing institute. And by that, I mean, we took no prisoners, and it was a very holistic approach to training. And also, I want to make clear that I never approach a group as if I'm talking to people that are not already experts in customer service. Nobody got in this room by not exceeding someone's expectation at some time, some place. So I know I'm already talking to professionals. Okay? So, in fact, how many people in this room have delivered a great service moment? And come on, in your career, whether here or anywhere, how many people have delivered come on. Really? No? What's your name? Okay, conversely, how many people, whether you meant to or not, have delivered a horrible service moment? Okay, and we know that one feels a lot better than the other, so just why don't we do it all the time? You know why? Besides technical things that might get in our way, it becomes harder and harder for us to see our services through the eyes of our clients, users, customers. And you know why? Because we've seen the wires. You know what I mean? Remember in old superhero movies, before they had green screen, you'd see Superman fly, and you look at those movies and you look and you go, you can see the wires that are holding the guy up. And once you see those wires, it becomes very difficult to not see them. I have stood in the Haunted Mansion in the Magic Kingdom with all the lights on. I've seen the wires. I was in the Hall of Presidents one day when Lincoln gets up and does this. That's seeing the wires. I have seen Mickey Mouse's head on the floor. I've seen the wires, and so have you. You've seen yourselves at your best, you've seen yourselves at your worst, and you know what it looks like backstage. I'm not here to articulate what a great service moment is going to look like to your users and clients. That would be presumptuous at best. I'm here for your sanity. I'm here for the same reason I was there for tens of thousands of Walt Disney World cast members. What is in it for you, and how are you going to face this barrage of tasks that every day is going to try to convince you that the task is your job? What sort of consciousness are you going to use? When I approach, a lot of times I'm invited to help a sick culture. And at that time, what I do is the same thing that I tell individuals, because I really do believe that service is a superpower. It's not just a catchy phrase. Service is performative and transformative. And I mean that. I bring a group back to their plan. I go, let's go back to the plan, P-L-A-N. The purpose, the reason you're doing what you're doing really beyond making money, the purpose, the end purpose, the L, the language that you're going to use to articulate that purpose and inspire others to join that purpose and maintain that purpose. Articulating that purpose through language is going to create and inspire actions and activities and experiences that you experience and your clients and users experiences. Experiences that can be noted, measured, and rewarded. And that at that point, the N stands for the narrative you share with your customers, clients, and users. And by that I mean that's when they do half the work, because they approach you believing in your best. It's like when somebody approaches a custodial person in Fantasyland They approach that person assuming it's going to be a Disney-fied experience, thus they do half the work. They bring their best to the situation, and as we know, customers find what they look for. So we want to keep them guided on what exactly to look for, the plan, the PLAN. Let's create a collective consciousness. How many of you have ever heard the term, there's no business like show business? Okay, that is a lie. The truth is, there's no business but show business. You're on stage. Psst, you're on stage. Every moment is an emotional moment. Every time a client deals with you, there's an opening shot. Whether it's just audibly or not, there's an opening shot to that encounter. How many of you have ever been to a Disney park by a show of hands? Yeah? Great. How many of you have not been by a show of hands? Okay, you are troubled through this whole thing, I've noticed already. So that's good. I'm going to make sure you get to a Disney park. For the sake of discussion, I want you to imagine that somebody has talked you into taking a 7-year-old little girl to the Magic Kingdom on a Saturday in July. Oh, I've got pros in there. Okay, all right. Okay, so you know, oh, it's magic. It's a lot of work, and it's going to cost a lot. All right? Let's look at that moment. And by that I mean, what does it look like, sound like, smell like, feel like, look like, sound like, smell like, feel like? All right. I want you to imagine you're standing there. The little girl's right there. It's Saturday. It's hot. And I'm telling you, there's already a crowd. It's 7:30 in the morning, and there's already a crowd. And I have seen what you all are doing, and it's amazing. There's a crowd, and you all look real important in mouse ears. And you've got all the stuff, the cameras and the tickets. And now you got to have the phone all the time. And Mom, all the time, she's got the phone, and she's working it's like the Sheikah slate in Zelda. You got to have it, or none of your superpowers will work. And you're standing there, and you're doing this. You know what you're doing? You're looking for weaker families than your own, because this is going to get serious real soon and become a competition right now. So you're looking down the street and you see that castle. There's all sorts of false perspective going on to make that thing look bigger than it really is. You've seen that thing all of your life. You just look at that and it already starts to draw an emotion. You look at that, yeah, all right, you start to see it. And then the child with you sees Snow White in front of the castle. And that kid would know it was Snow White even if she had her back to you. How? The dress, what does it look like? What does it look like, sound like, smell like, feel like? You know the dress, and you know what you must do once you see Snow White, and you see the look on the faces of the kid when she sees Snow White. You know that you must beat all of these families down the street. You must get this child to Snow White. You must get a picture, and you must get it on Instagram all within 5 minutes. That is your mission. And then you're standing there. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And then you hear... That's all you need to hear. All right, that starts to conjure too. All right, and then we would do something completely sinister. We would start to make popcorn at 7:45 in the morning, even though we knew you weren't going to buy it. We wanted you to smell it, because we had learned that popcorn smells like an event. Okay, all right. You're getting your credit card is melting in your back pocket, and you don't even care at this point. All right, it's starting to happen. All right, it's about to go, and and they drop that rope, and the guy, you hear this voice go, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please walk safely and slowly." You get out of the way, man, because. And they're off! And you all start heading down the street. Men, women, children, teens, nuns, edging people out of the way. And a third of you are headed to the same spot, Space Mountain. That's where most people head. And I want you to know, I want you to imagine what it is like to be that poor person in a blue polyester outfit in front of Space Mountain 22 seconds after they drop the rope, and several hundred people in goofy hats are running towards you going, "Ah!" All right, there you go. But you have another mission, right? You got to get a Snow White. They drop that rope. Look at yourselves. Many of you are parents or grandparents, I know. It's the kid is not even on the ground because you are moving to Snow White. Now think about all the businesses that on paper wouldn't seem to have anything to do with each other, that had to come together, that had to speak with each other, had to plan with each other. People and divisions that will never be thought of or thanked, so that you and this little child can walk up to Snow White so she can turn around with a cigarette and a cup of coffee going, "Hey, kid, how are you?" Come on, what? See, even you know that's wrong. Look, Snow White's not a drawing wandering around. You want to know? Snow White is a teamster. I'm not kidding. She's got a right to that cigarette break by law. So what's the big deal? Tell me what that moment you just experienced is not. What is it not? Well, it might be magical for Snow White. It's a break. But yes, you are correct. But the child is not going to be magical. What else is it not? It's not your expectations. Okay, we're getting close. I got pros in this group. Of what? Where are you? What is it not? And there is what? What is there? And characters, and the brand is... Well, you don't have anything. Where are you at that moment? You are at... And Disneyland, Disney World can be used as an adjective. I put you on the spot. Please take a copy of my new book, Service as a Superpower, Lessons Learned in a Magic Kingdom. There you go. Yes. The thing is, what you need to know is, people are using your organization's title, name, as an adjective too. They're probably even using your name as an adjective too. I want to talk about how purpose, language, action, narrative works together in a single moment for the Disney Company. Walt Disney's 65 years old. He buys 45 square miles of Florida. If I throw out the name Walt Disney, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Mickey Mouse. Okay, I've done this all over the world. I was in Saudi Arabia not long ago, and they said the first thing, Mickey Mouse. Walt would love that. He used to say, if we lose sight of everything, let's never forget it started with a mouse. Still is. If Mickey Mouse walked through that door right now, I guarantee that 2/3 of you professionals would grab for your phone and go, when the only thing that happened is a short person in a rubber head walked through the door. Or is it? Does it look like, sound like, smell like, feel like? Walt Disney, hit me again. Walt Disney. Passion, Steamboat Willie. Walt Disney the man, tell me. Visionary, happiest place. Okay, I've done this again all over the world. No one has ever raised their hand and gone, chain smoker, 3 packs a day. And that's the truth. But that's not the narrative we share, is it? Nobody's ever raised their hand and gone, nervous breakdown twice. That's the truth. That's not the narrative we're sharing. Nobody's ever raised their hand and gone, bankrupt twice. That's the truth. It's not the narrative that we share. Purpose, language, action, narrative. So Walt Disney buys 45 square miles of Florida. He wants to call it Epcot. The family doesn't get it. They don't get it at all. He buys 45 square miles of Florida and then finds out he has a tumor the size of a walnut in one of his lungs. They remove the lung. He's in the hospital. This is where the legend comes that Walt Disney is frozen. He is not frozen. But Walt Disney said, gee, I'd love it if they could freeze me and bring me back in 10 years so I could fix whatever they do to Epcot. That did not happen. You know what Epcot stands for? Every person comes out tired. Experimental prototype community of tomorrow. They take out the lung. He's in the hospital that's across the street from his studio. His brother goes to see him. His brother, always behind the scenes, handling the money. The brother shows up, sees Walt lying in the hospital bed. He calls him over. And he grabs his brother's arm and he says, you gotta look at this. And he points to these ceiling tiles. We have to do this differently than we did in California. I want to put a lake in front of the kingdom that will act as an opening curtain so that everybody gets the same opening shot. And I want it. And he's pointing to the ceiling, and he's showing the brother that he's mapped out all 45 square miles. And the brother leaves the hospital, calls Walt Disney's wife, and says, "This old buzzard ain't gonna die. If for meanness alone he is determined to drag us all to that God-forsaken swamp in Florida to build something called Epcot, I don't get it. He's gonna be fine." And that night he died. The family meets a couple of weeks later and goes, 45 square miles of Florida. Now what do we do? Can we do this without Walt? And the brother goes, "I don't know, but we gotta try." And we're not going to call this thing at Epcot at first. I don't get it. And we're not going to call it Disney World, ever. We're going to call it Walt Disney World forever for two reasons. Reason one, so nobody ever forgets it was my brother that drug us all kicking and screaming into the amusement park business. Reason two, so that we never become Ford, where everybody can tell you what one is and where you can get one. But nobody can tell you anything about Henry Ford. What he dreamed, built, believed will never become that kind of trademark, will always be known as Walt Disney World. And to this day, you will not find a piece of official media that says Disney World, because that is the attention to the original purpose, a language piece that supports it, that inspires actions, that have created the narrative that you believe in, so that when I said chain smoker 3 packs a day, you laughed. That's following the plan. Now, there's no business like show business thing. This is easy for me. I ended up growing up in show business. As a teen, I ended up playing kids on television. And as you can see, I did not grow up that much. So I continued to play kids for a long, long time. And you know what? We have a clip. I can show you in 30 seconds. This is decades ago. I'm the only one. This is how I made a living for most of my young adulthood. Look out, throat. Watch out, tongue. I've got the world's fastest soft drink, and here it comes. Yellow makes you feel so good, so fast. From your head down to your toe. Yellow makes you feel so good, so fast. You just can't drink it slow. Look out, lips. Watch out, toes. I've got another mellow yellow. Here it goes. Yellow makes you feel so good, so fast. Okay, a couple of things about that. The first thing is, that was almost 40 years ago, and I want you to know that substance has never touched my lips again. Ever. And the second thing is that prepares you for nothing. Nothing. And I'd become a punk. A couple of weeks later, I'm doing a Mattel toy commercial. I'm 25, and I'm doing a Mattel toy commercial. And they were real proud of their new toy. It was a big handheld computer toy. It was the 80s, so it was the size of a Volkswagen. And the commercial was these 4 kids running around with this computer toy. And so we're shooting the commercial. Everything seems fine. And then we stop. And the director looks worried. He calls me over, and he goes, I don't know how to say this. We're going to have to shave your hands. He goes, here's the deal. Look, everything's fine. You look like all the other kids. It's just great. But then we go in for the product shot, and you all throw your hands in, and it looks like 3 kids and a hobbit put their hand into the shot. So we're going to shave your hands. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized that not only had I never played an adult on television or on screen, I'd never played one off either. I'd become a real punk. A real self-entitled punk. And then I became a waiter. Now, usually you're a waiter and then you get on TV for 12 years. My life plan was different, and I'm grateful because that's where I learned how transformative and performative service was. And this is what I've had a very non-traditional path. I barely showed up for high school. And when I found myself in boardrooms creating programs, and I thought to myself, I got here one service moment at a time, one action at a time, the purpose, the language, the action. One more thing about the language. People ask me what is so successful about the Disney training. It is the intensity and the relentless detail to language. And I would challenge you as an organization, because like Disney, you are many different organizations that have to talk to each other for a single purpose, and even though on paper it might not look like you have much in common, because there is a common language, there is a tent pole of 4 words that every transaction must follow: safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. Safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. In that order.